Well, good evening. This is Greg Dixon.
And Amy Dixon.
We're with Life Origami, and this is the 2019 State of Mind Report. Excuse me, I still had to do that, I guess. Clear my throat. This, do you guys remember what the Etch-a-Sketch was? Do you remember what that was about? You know, the Etch-a-Sketch, you would draw a line, and then you draw another line, and then you draw another line, and then you draw another line, and it was the original bitmap image, wasn't it?
I don't know. I couldn't even get it to do that.
Yeah,
I had to shake it.
Because the left knob was left and right, and the right knob was up and down, and so you kind of had to coordinate, do the like walk and chew gum at the same time.
Kids could do that nowadays though, because they got
Right.
their video games and stuff. They just with their fingers.
Exactly. So here we are. It's 2019, and just so that we don't offend anybody or get into any copyright issues, so to speak, this sort of little session we're doing here, we were calling it the Etch-a-Sketch, but really what it is what we're doing here is really a chalk talk. So any of my clients are familiar with what I'm doing. I do kind of a visual note taking while I'm coaching people, and so so I thought we thought we'd do a bit of an experiment.
Yeah, I used to do this when I was in university, and then people would ask me for my notes, and they would look at it and say, "What?" Because it was more like a mind map.
Right, exactly. So that's what the idea of this is. So we're here to talk about the state of mind, about what's going on. Because we think our North American society is experiencing an unprecedented level of oppression. I think of it as kind of the age of accusation. What do you think of that, Amy?
Well, we sure see that in the government when you turn the TV on and you're watching them having a debate, and each one is making accusations. They're more interested in their family life than they are in what's happening in the within policy and stuff like that. But it's all about accusations and judgment and projections. And
it created a whole thing of oppression. And really what started me thinking about this was I was just observing and reflecting on my life and the persistent sadness that I had experienced
in your life,
in my life for a lot of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having buried most of my family,
Mm-hmm.
here I am. And so what's also got me thinking is that we're also witnessing presidential narcissism.
Oh, whatever could you mean?
Oh, I don't know. There's an individual who's he's really only self-centered and is always making the news. And yet, the interesting thing is this same individual doesn't see a need to build consensus, which in times past, a narcissist, the democratic system of government probably would have screened him out. Yet here we are at this particular point in time in history where, there is narcissism. We're seeing a lot of really well ingrained narcissism in our leaders. And the truth is narcissism isn't just in politics. It's in business. We see it in families. And this article isn't about any particular leader, but here's an interesting thing. Amy went and did some research. And what we found is that there's an estimate of about, approximately 0.5% to 1%, or about 1/16 of the people out there are narcissists. They're narcissistic bullies, people who berate and abuse others to get their narcissistic need of self-importance fulfilled.
It's like their supply, and it needs to continuously be filled. And if they don't get that supply, then they go into a meltdown.
Right.
They call it a narcissistic rage. And it's kind of funny that There's a great example of a self-centered, indictable narcissist that happens to be running a country right now.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
He happens to be in charge of the most powerful nation on earth, so to speak.
Yeah, he's at the helm for sure.
Yeah, but narcissists are everywhere. And the reason I guess this is important, we're talking about it here on Life Origami, is that we keep hearing from clients, our clients, about the amount of stress and tension that they're experiencing. You know, and so people are feeling overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, well, I think they go through, they're going through periods of being extremely overwhelmed. Even though they are high achievers, they still struggle to cope.
Right.
And it seems our society is laden with persistent sadness.
Yeah, exactly. And so this sounds like kind of a negative thing, but I think it's reality. And what we're hoping to do here today is that this is really our goal here is to create that this isn't just to be a Debbie Downer, but the truth is that if life was only as easy as erasing it, if we could just erase the narcissist, like I'm doing here, you know, eliminate and erase the age of narcissism, wouldn't life be grand? But that's not the way it is.
You can't edit history there, my dear.
Right.
But what we're hoping to do, in fact, is create a manifesto of hope.
Right. Very good point. So this manifesto of hope says what, Amy?
Well, the reason
we
we're
have
doing
control, right? We're basically saying that we have control.
Yeah, we have control over whether we're happy or sad.
Right.
And what makes us happy and sad is simple and complex. There are numerous factors which contribute to our sadness and our happiness. And one thing which is true for every human being is we all get to have control over our happiness and sadness.
Correct.
And it happens through our primary locus of control, which is the decisions, choices we make, and the thoughts we think.
Right, exactly. So that is our secret weapon. Our locus of control is our decisions, the choices we make, and the thoughts we think. We have control over that. So depending on what you choose, you know, again, you know, we're going to be talking a little bit now about, you know, whether the glass is half empty or half full. But depending on whether you choose to measure misery or happiness, you could have a different perspective. And it's really interesting. When I started looking at this, I was shocked that there's a misery index. That there is the hanky misery index, it's called.
Hanky,
Not hanky. the hanky misery index ranks countries. And there's also the World Happiness Report.
Yeah, that's
the one we all want to pay attention to.
That's
right?
part of the United Nations WHO organization.
Yeah, the WHO, yeah, the World Health Organization. So here's the interesting thing, is that with the World Happiness Report, Canada ranks what?
As the 7th happiest nation on the earth.
The 7th happiest. Ooh.
I know, I'm so
hero
happy.
cooking.
I can cry.
If you would see me right now, I'd be patting myself in the back, almost hurting myself. The happiness report looks at a number of factors. You look at life expectancy, social support, the freedom people experience, the trust and generosity. I was surprised to see. Now, the USA, not to leave the United States out, is the 18th happiest on earth. Okay, so you know the nation on earth that in its constitution guarantees the right to pursue happiness happens to be the 18th happiest, which I think is kind of telling. Now
that's kind of surprisingly low consideration. With the Constitution ranking.
Yeah, and it's a vote. There's a whole conversation we could have that,
Yeah.
You know, the more you focus on happiness, the less happy you get. Because happiness is fleeting, but that's another kind of conversation for a little bit later, perhaps.
Right.
I'll bring up. But let's look at the misery index. So Canada is 72nd in the misery index.
So the number, that means 70.
So we're the 72nd most miserable country in the world. Okay. Now here's the interesting thing: the USA. If we look at the USA, they beat us. They're the 69th most miserable country in the world. But the thing that shocked me of all is a country called China, which is much maligned. It's only 98th.
So you'd say it's 98th less miserable.
Yeah, so it is like
I don't know.
29 positions less miserable than the United States, okay, and 26 less miserable than Canada. Well, my math isn't quite right, but the point is that depending on what your point of view is glass half empty, is a glass half full. Are you, depending on how you look at it, the misery report, do you want to focus on the misery? You want to focus on happiness? But the thing that I think that's important in this is that every single one of us, except for maybe the most abused and oppressed people, we all have the potential to make decisions which could change the course of our lives, right?
Yes. So what might it take to truly embrace what makes your heart sing out loud then? That's the question.
Right. And so if we look at that in terms of what is it going to take to make your heart sing out loud, it's about the whole power and control thing.
Yeah, it's I'd say in our lives we can honestly say that we had to learn to let go of our struggles and embrace the magic of our own personalities. And then so for me that meant letting go of my attachment to power and control struggles to always be right. So let go of the attachments to the things that were holding me back.
Right.
So I had to be my own person and let go of all my society ideals that were getting in the way of who I was. So yeah, I had to learn to let go of my struggles and embrace my new me.
So you had to let go. You had to release and let go.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so once you release and let go, what do? Then you got to bet the farm on what makes your heart sing out loud. And so that's kind of scary though, right? You got to move forward. You got to kind of bet the farm on your dream. Because ultimately, I think that's what we're really talking about here is this whole, in terms of what's your dream, right? On some level, we all have a dream, right? There's something we're looking to experience more of, and there's things we want to experience less of. And so, when I started this it sounds kind of woo-woo, maybe kind of mystical, when you think about it. But when I started this journey in 2015, I started to write a book called Manifesting Joy because I really, the book isn't finished. And it sat for about 2 or 3 years. Because the focus of the book at the time was, to manifest joy. So I thought, well, I want to, I don't want to chase happiness. I want to manifest joy because I felt that joy and happiness weren't created equal. Happiness is something that's temporary. Happiness is what happens when the Facebook live streaming worked. I became unhappy when we got feedback that it wasn't working for people.
But it would be joy if we got better internet service, right?
Well, or
that would be joy.
I would not be happy having to troubleshoot and figure it out. So we decided to record it
Yes.
and upload it later. So, it's taken me. So I guess the point is, I started to write a book, but I decided to pause it because I just didn't feel that I had any right to be teaching other people how to manifest joy when I was struggling to model it in my own life. So I had to get to a place where I had to release my own struggle with being sad and miserable. And hey, I had a pretty good story, didn't I? I mean, here's what happened. Over a 12-month period, what happened? So I had bowel surgery. Okay. I had a hernia surgery. And
nice writing, dear.
Yeah, did you like my writing? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother died.
Yeah.
And then the woman that had promised to marry me left.
She'd been dragging her heels for quite a few years.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I was but when I looked, and if you were to look back on my photos, even though I had a bit of a sparkle in my eyes, or there wasn't much life in my eyes, really, was there?
You had puppy dog eyes.
Yeah, it was so sad. Yeah, I was so sad, even though I had a smile on my face. So I think it's just really interesting. So I made a decision to pause the book, right? And because I was just trying to survive and get through the day, I really was struggling. So I decided to pause it because until I felt I could speak congruently with confidence about manifesting joy and actually be an example for others, I didn't think it was right for me to do that. So what I had to do is I had to learn to take out the trash, right? So I had to take out my own trash. Boy. Yeah, I had to take out the trash. Again, wouldn't it be nice if we could just take out the mental trash by, just erasing things? Wouldn't that be cool?
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of, I just wiped it off. It's gone. It's now history. So, the thing is that I had to get back to my locus of control. I had to make peace. All right? I had to make peace with the choices that I made, because here's the thing. I was clear that I was the one making the choices, and I created my reality. Right? I created the reality that I was experiencing. And that sucked.
Like, you didn't create the things that were done to you, but you allowed it to continue on, right? And you didn't make the choices to make it stop.
Right.
Or to alter them somehow so they didn't continue the way they were.
Right. So I had to make this decision. It was because I was feeling repressed and oppressed. Part of it was due to my own choice. Things happened to me, but part of it was due to my own choices. So I had to go through this process of being the observer. Right? I had to decide, okay, life's going to be different. I had, what needed to change? What did I want to change in my life? What did I want to be different? So I had to make some choices. And so through a process of observing, observing what was going on for me, confronting, what was going on, about my feelings and automatic negative thoughts, what I had to do is I literally had to drag them out from the recesses of my subconscious and be willing to be the observer, to see what was going on for myself, and to bring them into the full light of my conscious awareness, to drag them out of the obscurity of me trying to hide out, to the full light of my consciousness, to be aware of it. Because the first step to change is awareness. There is no change without awareness. Just as a little bit of an aside, awareness is what causes change. And slowly, as my awareness grew and I confronted what was going on, slowly I had a growing sense of liberty and lightness and a sense of freedom unfolded. And with each step of awareness, I've moved closer to inhabiting my own life. And that's ultimately what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's true. For myself, the decisions I made kept me in my predicaments too. I felt powerless and unworthy to make those decisions. I didn't feel I had the right, and I was stuck in an emotionally intense affair with my own ambivalence, constantly weighing out the deal breakers. So I could break from these dysfunctional relationships of all types, family, friends, that kind of thing, crappy jobs and nutty religions. I could never get to the brink of having had enough. And I was also painfully aware that I was sick and depressed because of the anxiety and panic levels that I was undergoing, but I wasn't aware of the underlying root causes.
Right.
So I needed to look at the drama inside and figure out where it came from and why, or how I perpetuated it in my life.
Yeah.
And when I saw the source of my pain, I had something to work with then, because I could see the roadblocks. And so then, because I could see them, I could see the roadblocks to getting what I wanted in life. And so because I could see them, it helped me to move beyond them. So after that, I only had to make 4 decisions.
Okay.
And then I got into action, and everything just turned like a wheel. And it worked. Painful? Sure.
Right.
Worth it? Hell yeah.
Huh. Well, 4 decisions, we'll have to come back to that. But, looking back, I guess I realized that a lot of my pain and suffering could have been prevented had I not continued to settle.
Yeah.
Because I settled. And when I settled, it basically wiped everything else out.
Yeah, but we couldn't have the hindsight back then without our own personal time travel capsule.
Right.
We needed life to teach us the lessons, and we change all the time with every conversation we have, and we have thousands of thoughts in a day, and so we grow.
Right.
So about settling, there's no guarantees things would have been one way or another if we had done things differently. So it's like fool's gold to live in the past, and we can't change it today. What we can do is stop beating ourselves up over it. We left it behind because it couldn't be fixed and needed to be put in the garbage can, okay? That means it's done. Why try to dig out the leftovers? So that was the key, and I only look forward to the good things to come.
Digging up the past.
Yeah.
Stop digging up the past, okay? Right on. Because the truth is that, for any of us, me and you included, this descent into this blame, shame, and guilt beatings, and digging up the past didn't happen overnight. It was a subtle, gradual deterioration. I deteriorated into a valley of persistent sadness. And here's another very uncomfortable truth, is I got there through a series of choices. Through a series of choices that I made, right? And the only way I found to escape that was to make better choices. And 2 of the biggest changes in my life came from confronting my need. Okay, these are big ones. Self-care and self-expression. And these 2 issues, self-care and self-expression, are, we believe, laws, right, Amy? These are the laws that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I was thinking about these steps.
Okay.
Each step that adds to the other until you've made more progress. So you may be hiking up a mountain or something, and you're going up, and then you get to the top and you look down, and, oh my gosh, I went that high up. So, with each step, it adds to one another and we make progress. But
Right.
It's not worth the energy to spend time gazing down that path to examine every rock I crossed and looking for how I could have climbed it better. It's a waste of time to be looking back.
Right. because we all face major life challenges, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, life happens, right? As much as we want to practice self-care and self-expression, life happens. You know, and the truth is, my sadness and you know, and oppression had many sources. You know, that tried to get, you know, things like things would happen like divorce, right?
Yeah, I went through 2 divorces and
Right.
some women's shelters way back in the day.
I dealt with grief. This next one, you spent a lot of time looking after
A
sick
sick
children.
child.
Child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one born 17 weeks early,
Yeah.
1 pound, and he's 26 years old today.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was 4 years of in and out of intensive care, and it was worth it, of course. All
Right.
the stuff I went through, but yeah, that you know, I went through that.
And so, looking at you, so you're looking after a sick child, and then, you know, then if you do that long enough, you empty out, you end up with an empty nest.
Yeah, that's the tough one. It was a problem right up till last year, and even still now, because I identified with who I was in my job description, my role as a mother, what made me needed, what made me worthy if I was needed, and at some point it's like, oh, they grew up, they have their own life,
and then they go on and make their own choices and do
Yeah.
things, and then they call you back and ask for help once in a while, or they don't.
Yeah, and so I kept, you know, calling them, phone me, you know,
Right.
I need you to call me. And then at some point, you know, I woke up and said, well, you know, they're those kids are on their own, doing their own thing, and I have to make myself happy now, and I have to stop waiting for them to bring me flowers. I had to plant my own garden and begin again. And there's no sense sitting there on your couch stewing because the kids don't call or don't come home while they're out there going skippity doo-dah.
Right. Right. And then there's the other things that can happen to us is we end up with pain, suffering with chronic pain.
Yeah, like fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia, pain from trauma, emotional pain from trauma, emotional pain from grief, or the pain from divorce, or, you know, the pain from a sick child and how that kind of interrupted your life. It became a real focus for you.
Oh gosh, yeah, it did.
You really had to focus.
It changed who I was.
Right.
And I had 2 other children too that passed on. So so I mean, I spent a lot of time taking care of sick children. So the one grew up. How do you let go of that? You know, you keep that kid alive. You have it on a heart monitor, and you're giving him oxygen and needles and things to give him his medication. How do you just stop being that person and just trust that he can take care of himself now and that he's healthy enough to do that? So there's people with PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they go through so much.
So much trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the stuff that we do, self-inflicted wounds from self-judgment. Right?
Yeah, we blame, shame, guilt ourselves.
Right, exactly. Or we have, like with the bankruptcy, you know, we deal with bankruptcy, negative self-image. You know, we don't like the way we look, or we don't like how our voice sounds, how we appear on a camera. Or,
I got too much hair. I don't have enough hair.
Yeah,
my feet are too
fat,
big.
too skinny.
Do these pants? Does my butt look big in these pants?
No comment. And then we suffer from abuse. You know, it could be child abuse, abuse in a marriage, trauma. All of these things, and the chronic pain. All these things affect it. It doesn't matter. The point is this: is that it doesn't matter what the cause of your pain is. What matters is what you choose to do now. I guess we should. I mean that. You know, this might, again, sound like a little bit of a Debbie Downer type of thing, but the reality is, as harsh as it sounds, none of us make change in our lives.
You know what?
We have to confront reality.
You know what? I was in a group session back when my son was in an intensive care. I joined a it was
Support group?
a support group, yes, at the hospital for the parents who had children in intensive care.
Right.
And I was talking about at that time how I was in a bad relationship right at the time that it was ending, about the time that my son was born. And I was, speaking about the things that had happened to me and were continuing to happen. And this young chick, she pipes up and she says something about me victimizing myself.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the hell? He's the one who beats me up. And she's like, yeah, but you allow it. And I said, no, I don't. I'm not strong enough, to stop him and all this. She says, but you stay. You haven't moved out, have you? And it just like was a slap in the face.
Right.
Like, yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
So she confronted you, right?
And I know it was really tough. I was angry. I was sick. I needed. Right. I was very sick physically after I realized that.
Well, and here's the thing.
But if I hadn't confronted that reality, I wouldn't have left them the month after.
There you go. Because you see, I believe that confrontation is the doorway. There's the key that opens the door. It opens the door to that either keep that door is closed. It keeps us trapped in persistent sadness, or through confronting reality and facing the pain and the suffering, it becomes the impetus and the energy we need to move beyond it. Because without the deep inner driving desire for change, our society, our families, our friends are going to make it way too easy to maintain the status quo. So if we're going to experience freedom and liberty, we have to embrace and summon up our courage to a level that perhaps we didn't before.
Why is that?
Well, because as you change, your behavior is going to ripple out to those around you.
Right.
And people are going to look at you and they're going to think that you've changed. And the hard truth is that you have. And you made a decision to not accept the status quo anymore. And when you decide to do that, it's time for things to change. It only occurs when you become the change agent, you become the chief cook and bottle washer of your life.
You know what I found is that people have a hard time sometimes supporting our change.
Right.
They become very uncomfortable with it because it changes their rules. Yeah. And we're no longer playing by their game, and they don't understand us. Maybe their level of control and power over us,
right,
influence over us has changed. And so sometimes when we make the biggest change, we find that we get opposition from areas that we never thought would occur. And then we have to make more choices in order to continue down the road we've been going on towards better health and wellness.
Right. And the people that are close to us often have the hardest time adjusting.
Yeah, I found that. And yeah.
So real change takes a lot more courage than we think. And if you're going to break out of that wallowing mess that we call our current reality, and what you're currently experiencing, something in our behavior has to change. Something in our mindset, our mind, literally, our mind has to change. Something in our behavior, something in our habits, our beliefs has to change. Otherwise, we're going to keep doing what we've always done. You're going to have our very own Groundhog Day. Never mind Bill Murray, we got our very own Groundhog Day. And if we really were paying attention to what we were thinking, you'd be surprised how much habitual thinking, how much habitual and repeated thinking we actually do and experience.
When I was doing a thought audit about a year and a half ago, and I noticed that I was constantly sick and not feeling well, just different things, sad. And I was just starting to wonder, what is it that because I was in oblivion. What is going on here? What am I thinking? So I had been writing this journal for 3 months, and I decided to, not really engage in it and get right down to the nitty gritty of it, but just sort of let my eyes scan the pages, and where I saw feeling words, I highlighted them. So I went through sad, angry, whatever it was. And so then after I did that, I went through and did the same thing. I looked for common denominators of what was going on at the time that I was feeling sad, right?
Right.
And
but you had the advantage of being able to look back not on your memories, but on journal.
Yes. Right. And so I went and looked at it, and I'm like, oh, gee, these are the same situations that are happening every time I'm feeling sad. And then I decided to write out what were the common feelings and things, what was the thought baggage that I had going on in my head, and where did it come from? It came down to 3 things. 3 things that was totally messing up my days for 3 months.
Wow.
Constant thoughts, constant feelings, and the same attachment to particular events, situations, and drama, blame, shame, guilt trips that were being put on to me. And when I became aware of that, it just changed everything for me.
Because we're here to tell you...
my Groundhog Day ended.
Right. We're here to tell you deserve a lot more than keep repeating the same thing over and over again. You deserve more. But in order to experience that, you're going to have to summon up your courage. You're going to have to begin to not settle. And what are some of the other things, Amy, that you're going to think of?
You got to show up for yourself. Stop just dreaming your dreams, but actually get out and begin to live your dreams. So walk the talk. You ever heard that one?
Yeah, live your dreams. Stop having dreams. Stop having dreams. Put a no more dreams until I actually live my dreams. Because everybody's a little bit different. And we've all, or we've taken the path left. I should say this differently. Everybody that's done things a little bit differently has taken the path less traveled, has had to face their truth. Because somewhere along the way, they learned to stare life down. They had to do things differently. They had to choose to
dance in their dreams awake.
Ooh. How about that? What do you think of that, folks? How about dance in your dreams awake? Tell us about that, Amy.
Well, we all dream about things. We go to sleep and maybe we can fly. Maybe we're at a party and we're wearing the most beautiful dress. And, whatever it is, we're on a vacation. We dream about these things, having a beautiful house. But when we wake up, wouldn't it be nice if those things really were happening? We would have the family and, relationships that we want, or whatever it is that we desire or wish for. Those are our dreams.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about nightmare dreams.
Right.
But these are dreams, right?
But what if you were to focus on carving out the image of your life that you have imagined for yourself, and actually from the roughly hewn raw tree of life that you've been given. We've each been given a raw tree of life, and so we're no different. The path less traveled is a lonely walk, but it's also invigorating. I mean, how do you feel about that? The path less traveled, Amy.
Well, with each step on this path, I think we affirm our self-worth. And so the very act of choosing to walk alone and blaze the very unique trail that is your life, it's a very powerful affirmation. And every thought, deed, and step taken, it rewires your brain. So what was exhausting in the early days along that uncommon path slowly becomes as effortless and natural as maybe breathing And you build up your experience and your strength with every decision. So that's what I'm
And
thinking.
then everything you end up doing becomes an affirmation for what you want to experience in the future. And then you end up actually living your dream.
And let's mention about that rewiring your
Yeah,
brain.
let's talk about that.
So there's neurologically in our brain, we have different pathways where there's connections and firing. So wherever we have more connections firing, within there's this cycle happening between the DNA and the process of creating enzymes that will make further pathways form. So
Right.
it's a genetic biological thing. But the more we use a certain pathway and a certain way of thinking and doing things and access different parts of the brain, we are strengthening that part of the brain. So as we
Use it or lose it, eh? Use the brain. You use it, you keep using it. So if I keep using and keep saying the same negative thing over and over and over
yeah,
again.
it does work that way. It's not about only just saying, oh yeah, the power, let's do
Power of
affirmations.
positive thinking and
If
whatever.
you keep
Yeah.
going back into your old patterns of saying, you're so fat, I wish you were dead. You're so ugly, I wish, you were kicked off the family tree, whatever. If you say negative things to yourself, you think negative things, you say I'm unworthy, I meant to get that hit because I'm a bad wife, whatever it is. You keep thinking that way, and that part of your brain keeps connecting there, and you keep identifying with those same thoughts. But if you start doing something different, something new, with everything that you do, take a new step, how you're rewiring your brain is when you do something that is turns out to work out pretty good. That gives you confidence, and then you do it some more.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you got this amount of self-efficacy coming on.
Yeah.
And it gives you so much self-acceptance. It increases your confidence. It boosts your self-esteem. And literally, physiologically, it rewires your brain.
Right. So one of the things that, because one of the things we tend to think of is our weaknesses. And, we hadn't talked about this, Amy, but we tend to ignore our weaknesses and we focus on our strengths. And
I
it
know.
seems to be common wisdom.
But the thing is if you have a weakness,
Right.
it drags you down. It's kind of like, oh yeah, my
Right.
upper body is really great for.
Oh, yeah.
You're a weightlifter, right? And
Yeah.
you like to flex your right arm more.
Yeah.
So
And you got a right arm that looks like looks like a leg.
or the people that overdo it, do it, and then they can't move their arms. They don't have that range of motion because they only flex the short muscles instead of the long muscles and stuff like that. So
Right.
you have an imbalance. So if you have your equilibrium is totally shot because all you do is do
Constantly-
the easy
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Do what's easy,
Yeah.
what you're good at, but you got something else like a rock, tied to your foot. You could, you could like swim.
End up with a giant right leg or something.
You
right?
could swim, up that stream a lot easier if you didn't have that log,
Right.
tied to your foot. So these weaknesses, they are a roadblock to getting what you want, because you could actually move even faster. You could accelerate towards what you wanted if
a
you
good
could
point.
just balance out those weaknesses.
Because
So
we're saying, what if you don't have weaknesses?
oh,
What if there are no such thing as weaknesses, but only undeveloped strengths? Undeveloped strengths that you haven't had the time, right? You haven't put the attention upon, and you haven't focused on developing the skills to convert it into a strength. What if there are no weaknesses and only undeveloped strengths? And that's one of our core beliefs, isn't it, Amy? That there are no weaknesses, only undeveloped strengths. The only reason can be labeled a weakness is because we haven't developed it. We haven't worked on it. We've ignored it. In our society, we tend to procrastinate and try to ignore what's really going on, because strength builds each time you put your shoulder into resistance, because ignoring a weakness is really allowing yourself to not change, which is embracing we put our shoulder into resistance, we're really conforming to the status quo. And the status quo is never going to, the status quo keeps us stuck. If all I'm ever doing is trying to maintain the status quo, when I'm no longer willing to march as one of the blind masses who carelessly complies with external expectations,
Yeah.
you know, your life begins to change. You begin to see yourself and the world through a different set of eyes.
I think it's the forward thinkers, the people who dare to put themselves forward and out of their comfort zones, try something new, follow themselves, believe in themselves. They're the ones that have made the differences. They're the people who have brought society forward in good ways. Like one time I was flying to New York on one of my business trips,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking, you know, I'm coming down in this plane, and I'm looking down below at the runway, and I'd heard all these stories about how this particular runway had been built.
Right.
And everything that was entailed with it, and the person that was responsible. And I was thinking, you know, if that person hadn't been forward, you know, the start of the new planes, right? The first person to build a plane, to fly in a plane.
Exactly.
And then you had to have runways, and you had to have, you know, you're flying above, and you can see all the structures of the houses below and the pools, and you see so much, and you think, you know, we wouldn't have the things we do today if it was
somebody had to dream, somebody had to go against the grain,
somebody had to do the work.
Right.
You know, you may benefit from driving that car, but you're not the one who built that car. You're not the one who designed that car. Somebody put sweat and toil and blood into, hopefully not blood, into your car.
But you know, when you take the path less traveled and you go against the grain, believe it or not, it creates something. It creates something we think is pretty significant. It creates hope.
What?
Yeah. Hope blooms because your heart begins to hum a little tune of encouragement and hope. And it's just the beginning of a new life that's unfolding like a flower. Because the thing we have to remember is nobody is guaranteed to be with us for our entire lifetime. But we are going to be with ourselves for our entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And are we our best friend or our worst friend?
I've heard it said a lot of times. People say, you know, you're the only one who's been with you all your life and knows what it's like to be you, had your experiences. But it wasn't until a couple months ago that I read it somewhere. It was like, oh, but you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life too. And I'm thinking, oops. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I have to live with myself my whole life. Am I going to be my best friend or my worst friend? Because you see, we choose to share our lives with other people, right? We choose to share.
Well, sure. We take the journey together, right? Which is the ultimate in self-expression, and one of our greatest gifts is that we can share our lives with somebody, like a kindred soul with whom we have an unimaginable gift and presence with.
Right.
And
because no matter who we are, and even though we might find a kindred soul where there's a lot of synchronicity,
mm-hmm.
we each still have to walk our own unique path, but we do it hand in hand with someone we trust. That's the biggest difference. We still are walking the path of walking the path of individuality takes courage. It requires commitment, but we have to be willing to carve out the image of the life we imagine for ourselves. Because you can't do it for me, Amy. Like, you can walk with me, you can be supportive, but if I'm not willing to carve out the image of the life.
Yeah, I can't live your life for you. I can't tell you how to live your life. I can't, make you put the peas in your mouth with the spoon, I can't do that. You have to have the drive. You have to be the one who decides what it is you want and how you're going to get it and what you're going to do to get it and what you're going to do when you get it, and then what's the next step. I mean, I can only be there so long.
I can find someone to share it with, though.
Yes.
Like we did together. To share life with.
We come into this world alone.
Right.
And we leave it alone. And our life journey and our lifeline, it's ours.
Yep.
It's our own.
Exactly right. So it took me 62 years. Wow. Yeah. No. Yeah, 62 years. It took me 62 years to find someone, that a kindred soul, and her name's Amethyst.
Yay!
And, she's my wife, my co-founder, partner here in Life Origami. And, the thing is that she's warm-hearted. Now, this is, a little bragging on Amy here. She's warm-hearted, generous soul, and here's the thing, she has the same audacious dream that I have. To fully inhabit her life. To fully inhabit the life that we've been given. Because we married in 2017, and had we not taken the road less traveled, we probably would have stayed single. I was actually not looking to be in a relationship. I decided to change my mind and be open, just in case there might be someone out there. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't be living our dreams together, right? We would have found ourselves sitting at the feet of other people who had long ago sacrificed their lives on the killing floor of other people's expectations. That gives me great pause.
So sometimes when we think about all the stuff that we went through,
yeah,
and how it affected us throughout our life, I like to look at it now from a little different perspective than I did maybe even 5 years ago. Was that if I hadn't traveled that path, I wouldn't have extracted the lessons from those experiences. And as I learned those things about myself, and my ability to take care of myself, and what I wanted out of life, as I learned these lessons, I was able to tap into into what I wanted. And I think that it brought me here to being here with you, because if I hadn't gone through what I had, I wouldn't have evolved, and we wouldn't be as congruent as what we are. We knew each other 12 years ago.
Right.
We were totally different people. You were my coach. You were all analytical, businessy guy. And I was Miss head in the clouds, but feet on the ground. Do anything. I can do anything. And I went through so much in the last 10 years.
Right. You confronted your reality and you made major changes, as did I. And
because of it, we were able to come together. If I had not made those changes, I would still be in those abusive relationships, and I wouldn't be available to live a life. And the thing is I was already, I don't know what the word is, if it's complete, whole, whatever word you want to use, before we got into a relationship. So I had a lot to offer. And when we got together, we couldn't believe
the synchronicity,
the
commonality. So the message in all this is don't you dare surrender your life, your hope, or your dreams. If the people around you don't want to grow, or even worse, have become dream killers, you owe it to yourself to escape the dungeon of their dreams, because they have a dream for you. Everybody in our lives has a dream for us in some way, or they have a dark mood towards it. You owe it to yourself to escape that, because otherwise what's going to happen, Amy? They're going to suck you dry.
There's going to be, I like to refer to them as the energy draining vampires that suck the marrow of your life.
Ooh. Yeah, if you ever wonder why you're really tired around some people.
Negative energy just drags you down, right?
Right, and plus they're always, going after you. So just because those people are frightened of their dreams, or have surrendered their hearts on the altar of the world's expectations, they're
Well, it doesn't mean you have to.
Doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
But that's, the world's expectations. Now I have to say this, we still have to get along with the world, right?
Yeah, we can't live in a bubble or a vacuum.
Right.
We have to get along.
We still have to get along with people. But here's the important thing is right now, you're standing at this particular point. There's this particular point, it's called now. Right?
Yeah. And there was now.
Right.
There was then, or
there's
the
the past.
And then there's future.
There's the future. Oops.
Future starts with an F, not future. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we do anything about the past?
No.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. And the future, I can't do anything about the future, can I?
Not unless there's a time gate. I don't see a time gate yet.
Okay, so I can't do anything about the future either. What am I left with?
Your only point of power is now.
Because this point of power is the only point of power where you can make choices, right? You get to choose.
Hey, you can create there.
You can create.
Yeah.
And you can dare to fully embrace you get to choose, you get to make decisions, right? And you get to take action. And here's the thing. If you take action based upon your intentions, right? And you make sure that you consistently put your attention on your intentions, and then you take action, what happens?
It looks like you're gonna get movement.
Yes, you're gonna get movement. Exactly right. So what's gonna happen? You're gonna make forward movement, and you're gonna find yourself in the future looking back on the actions that you took and how all of this contributed in the moment called now to help you create your reality. And so in our mind, we what we're going to be talking in the next broadcast is going to be fun. We're going to talk to you about something that is foolproof. We're going to be talking about something that's unlimited and something that is natural. So we're going to have some fun. So we encourage you to, encourage you to take some time to really think about what you've been experiencing in your life. Just take some time to reflect. Reflect on the burdens, the worries, and the concerns that you have. Maybe you haven't looked at them for a while, and bring them out and confront them. Be honest with yourself. Know that we're here to don't beat yourself up, but confront them and confront what we're saying. Confront reality. Confronting reality doesn't mean beating yourself up, but confront reality. Because in the next video, we're going to talk to you about fun. How we have an acronym, and it's what we do.
It's what we do. We're word nerds.
Word nerds.
We are.
Yeah, and so it's something that is foolproof, it's unlimited, and it's natural. And you're going to be, for us, it was a real awakening. We're looking forward to reaching out to you. And if you have anything you'd like to hear from us about, please reach out to us. Leave a comment. You can send us a message on Messenger, on Facebook. You can call us at 403-307-8281. We're always happy to talk to people on the OFT, the old-fashioned thing called the telephone.
It's unfortunate we couldn't do this live, but we're having some technical problems, so we'll have to try and iron that out tomorrow.
Or, maybe we'll just do it this way, and people can... We'll see. We'll see if we can get it ironed out. But in the meantime, the way you're going to make 2019 spectacular... Do you know? Do you know how you're going to make 2019? How are they going to make 2019 spectacular? Now, this point, your point of power is now. That's your point of power. It always has been. And it is the point of power. It's the only place where you can create a dream, is right now. So go out there, have some fun, create your dream, and you can find us at Life Origami on Facebook. You can find us at Life Origami on Twitter. I'm at Greg BD, GREGBD. Amy, you're at Amethyst Peony.
Yes, on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Yes.
And you can find Amethyst also on Facebook.
Yes, Amy, under Amy Dixon, AMEE.com, Amy Dixon.
That's right. And gregdixon.ca and lifeorigami.com. And if you go to lifeorigami.com, you can see our Serene, Living a Serene Life series of videos. There's 5 videos up there. This one will be loaded up shortly as well.
Yeah.
So give it a listen. Give us some feedback. Ask questions. Challenge it. If you don't agree with us, call us out. Challenge us. We'd love to enter into a heartfelt dialogue with anybody about anything.
And that includes my daughter, Jada. She's
my
a
son,
psychology
Greg.
major, so she knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
She's a smart cookie.
So go out there and have some fun, and remember that you can fully inhabit your life. This has been the 2019 State of Mind Report. My name's Greg Dixon.
I'm Amy Dixon.
Have a great day. A